So guys, today is Ignite Spark. Oh, my email said 6, but it's actually Spark number 7, find and win the buyer. So we're going to be going over that in detail so that at the end of this presentation, I want you guys to have a full understanding of the buyer process, how to get the leads, how to qualify the leads, how to talk to the leads, and kind of go from there. Now, this is being recorded. So although you guys here live know who I am, I'm just going to give a brief introduction. So I'm Brett Matser. I'm the CEO of Keller Williams Realty Irvine. I've been in the business for in my 23rd year. And I got to tell you, this training that we're going to go over today, guys, is kind of really near and dear to me. I don't know if I've ever shared this with any of you guys, but when I first got into the business, I was 20 nothing years old. I was like 23 years old. And I learned really, really quick that age does play a factor in the sales process, in who your ideal client is, on who's willing to work with you. And this is really, hey, what's up, Matt? Glad you were able to make it. So
Hey, Brett,
this is where I've come up with, I come up with all these really great sayings. And one of those is, I'd rather be popular than good. And I come up with those not because I read those in a book and I want to share those with you. I come up with those because I've come to this conclusion, or I've come to this realization through grinding, right? Through going through the process of this. And, the reason why I said I'd rather be popular than good, or knowing who your when you guys hear me talk, knowing who your ideal client is, it's because it's not just about you saying that you want to work with this type of person. It's about becoming the person that they would also want to work with. And if you really think about that, when I was 23 years old, I wanted to work with, now I started in Salt Lake City, Utah. And in Salt Lake City, Utah, at the time I got into the business, the average sales price was about $200,000. You can't even buy a shed here in Southern Orange County for $200,000. Maybe a shed, but you definitely don't get land with it. So, but at the time, that gets you 3-4 bedroom home, a finished basement, probably 2,400 square feet, probably almost a quarter acre of a lot, depending on where you're at. So, my goal was to work above the average sales price. I wanted to be in the $350,000, $400,000 range, because that was the entry level to luxury in that market. Now, for those of you who don't know, luxury is the top 10% of the market here in Orange County. That's 1.5 million, and above is the entry level into luxury. So I was 23 years old, and I got into coaching really at a really early age, or really early into my business. And I started to go off and I got appointments. The problem was I wasn't converting anyone. And it didn't take me probably for another 5 years to realize that I was not although I wanted to work with those guys in that price range, I was not the ideal person for them to work with me. So my first 2 or 3 years in the business, all I did was work with buyers. That's it. Now, I didn't have mentors like I didn't have a me that you guys had back then. I kind of had to figure it out. The nice thing was, got to take the blessing with the curse, is that I was like in my early 20s. I did not know fear. I was still in the Marine Corps at the time. I didn't know fear, and I just went. Someone pointed in a direction, I just went that way, and I figured it out. So I worked a lot and I played a lot, and I got very little sleep, and I got a massive tax bill years down the road to show for it. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about the buyer process, because it hasn't changed since I've been in the business. Yes, we have technology, but that's it, right? People are people. The process is the same. The lending criteria is the process. How to sell a home has not changed. So I'm going to share that with you guys. Now, as we start with all the Ignite programs, we want to break down the 2 things that successful agents do every day. And I am true to my own, I guess, I call myself a broken record, and I'm true to that, is that there's really only 2 things that you need to focus on when you're a real estate agent. It's growing your business and running your business. And as you guys have heard me before, it's the 80-20 principle. 80% should be growing your business. 20% should be focusing on running your business. And what we're focusing on today is lead generate for buyers and sellers. Well, really what we're focusing on today is lead generate for buyers. Lead generate for sellers, although the fundamentals are relatively the same, we're going to really focus on finding the buyers. Now, before I get started, do any of you have any questions regarding what we're going to go over today? Maybe some follow-up stuff. You guys got anything? No? All right,
No,
awesome.
just want to learn.
Just want to learn. Just want to be a sponge and just soak it up.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay. So here's what we're going over today, guys. Finding the buyer. Step 1. Step 2, cultivate the buyer leads. I usually refer to that as nurturing. Step 3, pre-qualifying the buyer. Now we're going to follow suit for the Ignite, but of course to this day, I haven't probably sold a buyer. I haven't sold a house for a long time, but I've probably sold more buyers than most people, even though I haven't really been in production for a long time. I did a lot. Like when I had my best year ever, it was like 57 transactions. I would say 90% of those were buyers. I put 100,000 miles on my car in 1 year, and it was a new car. So I worked 3 different counties. Told you, people just tell me which way to go, and I just went. And then we're going to talk about signing the buyer's agreement and then cap it up with any type of questions you guys have. Now, if you guys have any questions, just unmute yourself. Let's talk about it. If you hold down the space bar, let's talk about this. I like the fact that you guys are showing up because it's really, really hard doing these virtual kind of meetings when there's not a whole lot of engagement. So I encourage you guys to ask questions as we go through. Let's talk about a little bit of an overview. Let's go on to the next slide. Finding buyers. Now, does everybody have this Ignite? Katya, you got it. Russell, you got it. Laura, Duke, Mike, Matt, do you guys all have this Ignite download?
Yes.
Okay.
Matt, I don't have it.
Okay, look in the chat. It should be there at the very top. If you scroll up, tell me if it's on there that you can download it.
I think I came in late, so I'm not seeing in the chat.
Okay, so let me upload it to you guys real quick.
Thank you.
If I can find it now, because I got multiple windows open, and I always get lost in everything that I do. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop sharing my screen for a second.
Hey, Brett, I think I could, I'll attach it, have it open.
You got it open right now?
Yeah,
If
I'll
not,
just
I got it
send it
right
right
here.
now. Okay, I think I just sent it.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Russell. So there you guys go. It's in there. So I'm going to be going back and forth to the slides. Plus, I want to help you guys fill this out. So let's go back over to here. Okay, so this is on page number 3. Let's talk about where we find buyers. And for those of you that don't know, because you guys are all members of the National Association of Realtors, every year they come out with a report called the Profile of Home Buyers and Sellers. And it's just a whole bunch of data that you can look at. And it goes back years, like decades. And you can actually see the transition. So one of the big things I remember, because I read it every single year, is the year that the internet had more sales than classified ads. That was like a big deal for me. That was like a decade ago. But when we look at where people find buyers, 89% of buyers who purchased their home, they purchased it through a real estate agent. Now that's a huge number. Now, if we're looking at, 10 people, 9.1 of them are going to use a real estate agent, right? 100 people, 89 people out of 100 are going to use it. Those other 11 people, there's always that percentage of people who just want to make their life that much harder to save a few extra bucks. And really that's what you're talking about. In Southern California, we're in such a litigious state. I can't fathom why anybody would want to buy or sell on their own, all money aside, right? The financial side apart, nobody would ever want to buy or sell a home on their own. It's too complex. But if you look at that, good chances are if someone wants to buy a home, they're going to use a real estate agent. The second one is 41% of buyers found their agent through a referral from family or friends. Now we talk about our sphere of influence. We talk about people that in our family, our friends, our coworkers. Well, not our coworkers. I mean, everybody's hosed. All of your friends, all my friends are in real estate, mortgage, title, escrow, development. We could develop and sell a subdivision all at dinner. But I'm not going to get any referrals from any of my other friends who are actually in real estate. That's not true. I did get a referral. I actually did send a referral over to a friend of mine in Utah. But 41% of buyers found their agent through a referral. So a little bit less than half. Now, there's two ways to look at this. What this says, now I was 23 years old when I got started in real estate. Your sphere of influence is not the only way to get business. In fact, 60% of the buyers found their agent not through a referral, right? So there's ways that you can capture business. You don't have to use your past client sphere of influence. Now you want to grow that, but you don't have to, you have to get it. 75% of buyers interviewed only one agent for the job of helping them find their home search. Only one agent. Almost 90% used an agent, and 3/4 of them only interviewed that one agent. Now, what does that tell you? Right? That tells you that they're not really, you can get that business. 51% of buyers visited an open house as a way to search for homes. Okay, so we're in COVID. We're not even post-COVID. You know, once we get to a certain point, we're going to be able to designate like times of pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID. Right now, we're in COVID. And in COVID, open houses aren't really that effective because you might die, you might get sick. We don't want that to happen. So the reason why I wanted you guys to pull down into page number 3 is because, and if you didn't print it, if you can fill it in online, that's awesome. Or if you just have a piece of paper, let's have an objective here to whereas it says, where will you begin looking for buyers? Right? Where will you guys begin looking for buyers? Because can anyone have any ideas about how you might be able to generate some buyer leads? Go ahead and just chime in.
I would say Facebook ads, Mojo, and your sphere of influence.
Facebook ads. Okay. Mojo being that you're calling,
Mhm.
right? Prospecting, Mojo, the Mojo dialer. And then what did you say? Your sphere?
Yeah.
Okay. So those are all great. I'm looking for something a little bit more specific. Now, let me, oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Katya.
I just wanted to tell you, and I did title. I'm working with 247 where you can get all title leads for buyers. So right now I'm sifting through. So through title, you can get a lot. And also through a site called Hometown Locator, you can get up to 5 zip codes for free. So that's really
okay.
Cool.
So you're getting digital leads, perhaps from title, you know, you're getting leads generated to you. You can buy leads. Okay. So that is one source. You have Zillow, you have realtor.com, you have an infinity worth of more that you could buy buyer leads. What's the downfall to buying buyer leads?
Well, you have to find out the quality of the leads and you have to sift through what you want.
Quality.
Quality.
But that is definitely a thing. But the other downside is that you have to buy it.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't know. Now, Zillow was not as expensive for me when I did use Zillow probably about 10 years ago. They were, I think, maybe 300 and something bucks a month. Got a lot of leads. But now for that same territory, it's probably in excess of $1,000 a month. Right. So there's a hard cost to it. And typically when you get free leads, well, your quality suffers. And it's just the way things work. Typically when things are more, they're more scarce, they're more exclusive, they're going to cost more. But to find buyer leads, you can most definitely buy them. Right. So let's kind of talk about this. So one thing that we don't see on this, because this is an Ignite site, is, and this is from the 2019 and 2020, because it wouldn't, actually 2019 is the one I have. 97% of all buyers use the internet when they're searching for homes. Now let's think about that. 97%. That means they're going to Zillow. That means they're going to realtor.com. That means they're going to agent websites. They're looking for property online. So to your point, Katya, and to your point, Russell, is not necessarily specifically, but you can get them on digital. Most people, I mean, let's be honest. There are roughly my last look, there's like 4.3 something billion people on Google. 4.3 billion, right? That's like a fourth of that are using social media on a daily basis. So, digital is definitely a way to generate leads, but you have to learn how to capture them. So one of the things that we've always talked about is to create a digital strategy. Let me ask you guys something. Now, anyone can answer this. What are buyers looking for? What are buyers looking for when they go online?
A home.
A home.
At the right price.
They're looking for a house.
Best value. Yeah, best value.
But are they
Yeah.
looking only at price, or are they looking for something different? What else are they looking for? They're looking for a home. What else are they looking for? They're looking for the
Location.
area,
Area. Yeah,
right?
neighborhood.
Area.
Yeah.
Criteria of the home, maybe 3-4 bedrooms, pool, no pool, school districts, right? There's a lot of things that you go into if you really put yourself in the eyes of the buyer. Are they going online searching these sites to find a real estate agent?
No,
No,
No.
really.
no, people are not going. I mean, that's called a dating site, right? That's Match.com, right? That's one of those sites, eHarmony for real estate, right? They're going there looking for houses. And when we look at these statistics, 89% of buyers purchase home through a real estate agent. Well, 90% of homes are listed through a real estate agent. So it only makes sense that 89% of the buyers would actually use a real estate agent. 41% found their agent through a referral. Okay. That's less than half. 75% only interviewed one agent, right? So if we're saying that, one thing I heard from you, Russell, and one thing I heard from you, Katya, and I would guess that most people are probably the same, is people are going to the internet to find information on houses.
Yeah.
Well, truth is people are going to the internet. You and all of us access Google on the daily. I'm standing at my desk most of the time and I'm searching Google on my phone. And, the reason why you're able to do that is because it's easy. You get information back in a fraction of a second, probably a fraction of a second. And when I first got into the business, it wasn't like that. I had to post classified ads and I'd had to generate buyer leads based off of where I put it. So as you look at this, I want you guys to write down, number one, where will you begin looking for buyers? I want you to write down digital. Digital is probably going to be the best bet. Mojo. Okay. So Russell, who would you be calling when you talked about Mojo?
Just like the farm that I'm farming.
Okay.
the
So you're farming
geographic
for them.
area.
Okay. All right. So you're circle prospecting. You're calling people, say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, my name is Brett with Keller Williams of Irvine. Hey, we just listed a home down the street over on, Rose Garden Avenue. Do you know anyone that's looking to buy, to move into the area?
Yeah.
Right. So prospecting is most definitely one that's called circle prospecting. Okay. Now that is an analog channel. That means that you're actually, if you don't show up to make those calls, they don't happen. And so you don't generate those leads. Right. But that is one.
Mhm.
And then number 3, and this ties into the Mojo, and this ties into a dialer, is your sphere of influence. My sphere of influence is like this big in California. Like it's the extent. So when I moved to California, I had a foreclosure team, a nationwide foreclosure team. I was an independent. And then after that, I went to work as for Realogy, and I was traveling a lot because I was overseeing the growth of their franchises in California and Hawaii. It wasn't until I actually started kind of coming back into local that I started to extend my sphere of influence. But my sphere of influence is you, Russell, and you, Katya, and you, Laura, and I don't think that any of you guys were to find a buyer or seller that you guys would think, God, you know what? I think I'm going to refer those over to Brett. I don't think that would happen. So when you're talking about your sphere, I think that you definitely need to create your sphere to be conducive to what your objective is. Going back to your who, right? Who do you want to work with? You also have to know who do you want to create is your sphere. Look, if you could find someone, if you can build a relationship with somebody who is the HR manager for a Fortune 500 company, look, you'll probably get a lot of referrals from that person. If you could build a relationship with, someone in a corporate environment or a divorce attorney or a bankruptcy attorney or something, there are different types of relationships that you can establish that you can actually build rapport with and add them to your sphere. Is it easy? No. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. It's not just getting an attorney. It's not just getting a divorce attorney. It's getting ones that actually do a lot of business, and it's actually getting them to try you out, right? It's more of a B2C, B2B kind of option. But those are your three. I mean, digital, which encompasses Facebook, which encompasses pay-per-click, which covers organic. Who got my email about who I'm going to be talking to on our team meeting tomorrow? I'll tell you what, this is one of those team meetings that I don't think that you guys want to miss. I have Fei Lee that's coming on board with us tomorrow. He's going to spend time allowing me to do some Q&A. Now, for those of you who don't know who Fei is, he's the top earner in our office. He got licensed in December of 2018. In 2019, he was Rookie of the Year and closed over $500,000 in gross commission income. And this last 2020, he generated over $1 million in gross commission income. And he does it 100% through digital, organic lead generation through digital. And so he's agreed for me to come on and just ask him a bunch of questions. How'd you do it? Who you focus on? What do you say? What are the things you need? And he generates a lot of buyers, you would imagine. So make sure that you guys are on that tomorrow at noon. But, digital prospecting, sphere of influence. So those are things. Does anyone want to add anything to that list? Any questions on that before I move on?
No, that's good.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so now we're going to go into cultivating buyers. So this is where you guys are going to turn to page 4, and you're going to see this diagram on here. There's really only 3. This is the lead generation model. This is in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. This is for a solo agent. And it breaks it down into 3 sections: lead generation, database, sales pipeline. Okay, so you could draw a line straight through here. So lead generation. So lead generation is, I believe that you need to have, lead generation is the most important thing you can do in any sales business. Now, a lot of you guys have been through my prospecting, or excuse me, my sales training and such. And you always hear me say, 2 things: practice, practice, practice. In fact, I always say that there are 2 undeniable facts when it comes to sales. Number 1 is that nobody ever gets good at anything without practice. And number 2 is that you will never perform at a level higher than the level of what you practice. So if you go on a listing presentation, you go on a prior presentation, and you go, winging it, and you don't prepare for it, then you did not perform at a level higher than what you practice because you didn't practice, right? But leads are more important than practice. Does anyone want to share why you guys think that I might think that leads are more important than practice?
Well, if you don't have any leads, you have no work. There is nothing to.
Yeah, it's like the chicken and the egg, right? What came first, the chicken or the egg? The truth of the matter is, everybody is going to be terrible at what they do when they first start out. But the nice thing is, if you have leads, you can be terrible and eventually you'll get better. If you're terrible with no leads, all you're going to do is just be terrible and broke. So I always say that lead generation is the most important thing. And I believe that you need to have 3 to 5 different lead generation sources. Now, we talked about those on the previous page. Lead generation source, digital. Now, number 1 is you're going to be your sphere of influence. Ultimately, that will include your sphere of influence and your past client. Now, it doesn't have to be your past client from just real estate. It could be past clients from other spaces. Duke came from the financial industry, from the tech side. You guys all have prior lives before real estate. Find them. I don't think that everybody should go into your sphere of influence. I don't think that you need to work your database and your sphere much like you're actually going after the client. You know, who is your ideal client? If your ideal client's the one who actually is going to buy, you know, in the luxury component 1.5 million or above, then you need to start stacking your sphere of influence and start cultivating that list for those types of people. But anyways, lead generation is number one. Now there's two things with this. Who can tell me the difference between a lead and a contact? Lead and a contact. Anyone want to put a swing at that?
Yeah. Yeah, a contact is somebody that is in your database. A lead is somebody that very soon, maybe 30, 10, whatever, they're going to buy a house. So it's somebody
Okay.
active.
I like that. So a lead is somebody who responded to your one-way marketing, right? It's you're outgoing, your message, you're pushing your message. A contact is somebody who may have responded back to it, and you have maybe a two-way communication. You've contacted them. You've had a conversation with them, right? If I get a list of leads from Zillow, say 10 buyers that, I have 10 leads from Zillow, they're not my contact. All I know is that they've expressed some sort of interest in a landing page, but they don't qualify as a contact until I actually have a conversation. Now, a contact is exactly that. You have at least one source of one channel to contact them on. It could be your email, it could be your phone, it could be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it could be whatever. You need to, and it would be great if you had their name, address, phone number, email. That would be fantastic. Now, are you going to be talking to your leads different than you're going to talk about to your contacts?
Yes,
Yeah.
you should.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely you are.
Yes.
So, but that's the difference there. Okay. Now you're also going to have a cultivating campaign that's going to be different based on your lead or based on your contacts. Right? Again, leads, let's say that they enter into it, you call them. So I believe that that when a lead comes in, you should be trying them at least 3 times until you get a hold of them. It comes in, you need to respond within 5 minutes. We're talking about income generated or digitally generated leads. You have 5 minutes to get that lead. If you call them, you get a voicemail, leave a voicemail, and then call them again later. If you call them again, you don't get the voicemail, don't leave a voicemail, call them again later. If you have their email, send them an email, right? The whole function when you're actually dealing with leads is to turn them into a contact. Either turn them into a contact or throw them out because they don't qualify, right? If you contact a lead and their name is Elmer Fudd and you actually call them thinking that it's real and you end up speaking with a 7-year-old, that's not a lead. There's no point for you to put that onto a nurturing program. Get rid of it. But once you hit a lead, what's probably the most common thing that you're going to get from a buyer's lead when they call, maybe from an online lead? This is true with anything. Russell, this is probably true from your days in sales from timeshares. What happens when you walk into a store? You know, back in the days when we can actually walk into a mall, and you walk in and you're going in there, and a sales associate comes up to you and says, "Hey, can I help you?" What do you say? I'm just looking.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm just looking.
No,
Right.
just,
So when you call these people, a lot of them are going to say, you know, I'm going to call them, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Jones," or whatever the name is. "Hey, John, this is Brett. I'm with Keller Williams Irvine. The reason I'm calling is because you just responded to one of our online ads. Did I catch you at a bad time to talk?" "No, I'm okay to talk." "Okay, well, I wanted to reach out to you and see, you know, if I could help you. Are you looking to buy or sell a property?" "Well, you know, I'm just looking." "Oh, that's cool. So the property that you have to practice your talk track so you can control the conversation, right? And if you guys have heard me before, the person who controls the conversation is the one who asks the questions. We're going to have questions. I'm going to go over this stuff with you. But whether it's a contact or a lead, you're going to now have to cultivate them. You're going to have to nurture them. Tell you what, this was hard 20 years ago. I did this all by hand. I used an Excel spreadsheet, and then I upgraded into an index card box that had numbers 1 through 30 in it. And each card I would have in there on labeled what day. right? So if it was the 2nd of the month, I'm calling everybody on the 2nd of the month. And then I take that stack and I put it into the back. So every month I'm calling back on the same day. That's what I used to have to do. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to handwrite certain things. But, you know, a CRM, any basic CRM, Command does it. Go High Level, LionDesk does it. Everybody has some sort of automation when it comes into your email. I tend to, you guys are with Keller Williams, so instead of incurring costs, I would always recommend to use what you have until you decide that you want to upgrade or use something different. But that's how you're going to cultivate them. Now, there are going to be customized, hold on, guys. Let me decline that. Can you guys still hear me? Russell, say something.
Yes.
Katya, say something. Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to put this on. Hey, Siri, put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Lord knows it would take me 2 minutes to figure out where I'd find that physical thing. So you want to make sure that you have a process. Now, for example, I used to do a ton of short sales well before 2008. And one of the things I used to do, and this is relative to what you guys are doing, just because it's follow-up sequence. It's a system. So I would get one, and then once somebody started to get foreclosed on, I sent them a letter. And then every week I'd send them a postcard. So it was a methodical 10-day approach. I would try to call them. I did the same thing with expired listings. I created 5 different postcards. I ordered 1,000 each. And anytime something came up expired, I would call them, and then I would launch this daily postcard campaign. And they would just continually getting the message in the mail. And the reason why I did that is because I knew, and this is still true, is that you have to touch somebody 8 times before it starts registering. Now, sometimes the mail gets backed up and you get people calling you saying, I got 5 postcards in the mail from you today. I said, that's great. I'm glad to see that the post office is actually delivering them. I said, the reason why you're getting those postcards, and it could be an expired, it could have been a default. But the reason why I was sending this out to you is because, right? And then you go into your pitch. So that's just an idea of cultivating. Now, nowadays, you do it with email. You do traditional mail if you would like. You do it through telephone calls. You reach out on Facebook. You reach on different channels, Instagram. You reach out on a variety of different things. You can upload your leads into a Facebook custom campaign, let Facebook cross-reference your data points, and then you can pay to have an ad be placed in front of them. It's all about, remember I said, it's all about being popular instead of good. Now, ideally, I want you guys to be popular and good. Popularity can only get you so far. But that's what you need to cultivate. And then as you go through that cultivating, you get an appointment. They turn into like an active buyer. You find a property, you go under contract. And then once you're, under contract, meaning, every other place that I find in the nation, see, when we go under contract here in California, we say open escrow. Most every other places that I've done business in, it's always like, okay, we've gone under contract. So that's synonymous. And then, you go through your timing, your 45 days, and then you close it. Does that add clarity to things for you guys? So let's go back over to this. So on this, I have another slide. Here's an image of a smart plan. We're not going to go over this. I'm not going to, this isn't a tech course, but this will walk you through. If you need help walking you through a smart plan, then get with Sky. If there's more than one of you, then I'm happy to have her put together a group training for you. But you can see here is on this right side, you have a link to this is a smart plan. Once it launches, it waits 10 days. So it's a 3-touch, 8-step plan. There's 8 steps and it touches them 3 times. So once you enter it in 10 days, you have to make a phone call. In another 10 days, you have to do a touch task. A touch task meaning, not touching them, not going there and patting them on the back. You're touching them. You can send them a postcard. You can reach out to them in email, just letting them know that you are still alive, breathing, and in the business. And then you wait another 10 days, and then it sends an automated text message. Now, on a side token, I want you guys to be careful about SMS text messages. I don't know about you guys, but man, this last election season, I got more texts from political texts than I ever have before, which means that next year is going to be even worse. So when I send text messages, I don't send cold text messages, and I don't send marketing text messages. I send confirmation. If I called them and I had to leave a voicemail, I would send a text. I would say something like, Katya, this is Brett. Hey, I just left you a voicemail. I was just following up with you. Is there a time we can talk? Right? I'm not going to say, hey, come to this, free webinar, right? There's different channels, and you really have to be respectful of the way that the different platforms are being utilized for communication. We don't have just telephone, door knocking, and open houses anymore. There was a time where the only means of communication other than speaking and Morse code was just a telephone. So if you guys need help, smart plans, in Command, they call smart plans, they call automated campaign smart plans. In other CRMs, they might call them different. They're generally known as campaigns. A campaigns is just a series of things that just go out at a pre-designated time. For instance, you guys are going to receive an email tomorrow at 9:30 in the morning, letting you guys know about the team meeting tomorrow. And then at 11:55, a text message is going to go out reminding you that we're starting. That's already been set. I'm not touching it. I'm not sending it to you, but it's going to go out and you guys are going to get it. Now, if I really wanted to, and I did this at one time, we had an email, we had a whole series of events going out for all the events that are going out during the week. But what I've come to find is that when you're doing things, you can't be so structured in a campaign when you're actually reminding people of events. Events get canceled, events get moved, events get rescheduled. So it usually caused more work than what it was worth. Does anyone have any questions? Let's talk a little bit about campaigns, automations. What do you guys got? Any questions? Duke, Laura, Matt? You guys got any questions for me? Okay, go ahead.
I have one. For the Facebook ads, I know we could do it through Command. Is it the same as doing it through Facebook as well? And is there like a sheet that we can use to make sure when we create the ad that it's allowed by KW, it's within their standards?
So to answer your question is that you can do Facebook ads through Command, and not, of course, we're meeting with Faye tomorrow, but the following week I should be doing on our team meeting, Luis DiGanzini. He's the team leader of one of our big teams here. And he uses Command, and he's generating leads for like less than $1. And the reason why he uses that is because the relationship and some sort of deal that KW has with Facebook makes it so you can optimize your lead gen through your Command. So Command isn't just used for your CRM. You want to make sure that you can use it to generate leads, regardless of what you're using. I know that he uses 2 CRMs. He uses one for his team. I think it's Brivity, but he uses Command for lead generation. So to answer your question, Command would be, you still have to go through Facebook Manager, but it's tied into your Command and it goes through onto your Facebook page. There's videos about that. There's videos in MyKW that you can actually learn how to do that in a step-by-step process. And if you can't find it, let me know and we can maybe find that together. The second part of your question was making sure that it was, compliant. So here's my thought process on that. Man, I got to tell you that Facebook changes by the day on compliance. I can post one ad on Tuesday and it can go through just fine. And then that same ad that I post 10 minutes later will get rejected because they're using, AI, they're using bots and such. So what I would recommend that people do if you're going to advertise on the Facebook platform, the best training that you can get is go to facebook.com/blueprint. That is free training that Facebook developed to teach you how to use their platform. And in there, it talks you about their guidelines on how to post ads. Now it's lengthy. Whenever you're learning something, it always doesn't go as fast as you want it to, but it's one of those things that I don't think that Facebook, actually, there's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff going out with Facebook and Twitter and such that I see coming down. But as of right now, you just got to make sure that you're aware of what you can and can't do. But I don't think that you're going to get blocked off of Facebook. And there's tons of videos about that. And we'll see about putting something like that together, Matt, to really kind of just methodically walk you guys through the process to whereas you can just get one basic ad up that has been known to convert so you can actually start generating some things. That's probably not a bad idea. I'm going to write that down.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Duke, Laura, Russell, Katya?
We were told on a coaching class that if you have a listing, you can use Facebook and Command for $60 to put your listing on it. So that's I know that's possible, but for the lead, it would be nice to know how we do that.
So the truth of the matter is on Facebook, whether you use Command or not, and you have a listing, you can blast it out for $20, right? It really kind of depends on how you want to utilize it. I've always found that the better results come from being more specialized, right? So the platform that you're using through Command is, if you're going to be able to dial in deeper and perhaps get a better result, it might not be, it's one of those things that you have to test, but you can post an ad on your business page of your listing, and you can decide to just throw $15 at it, $20 at it, and it will tell you what kind of reach that you could get. Now, it's not just about posting the ad though, it's posting your call to action. The goal for an ad, when you get into Facebook, there are different objectives of what you want to achieve: awareness, lead generation. There's a different criteria. So my goal is when I actually post something, I want to generate leads. If I'm going to spend $1, I want to get something out of it. I don't want to just post it on there just for the sake of posting it. Right. So there's some things that you want to do into that.
Hey, Brett.
Yeah.
I got a question for that smart plan. So if you set it up, does it give you like a notifier like, hey, I got to call this client in this day?
Yes.
Or it gives you that notification?
Well, what would happen is that you would just have to make it a habit to log into your system every day or every other day and just see. But what it will do, it will start adding up, all these calls. Okay. It'll tell you if you're 1 day late, 1 day early, whatnot, but you can just call through them.
Okay. But I got to go on and then have that list of calls or that list of like touch tasks or text, whatever. But it doesn't tell you automatically. You have to set it up and then go to the actual website or the command in order to see it. Is that kind of how?
No, you can access it from your mobile command. Okay. Yeah, you don't have to be in front of your computer. You can actually set up on your phone and actually see all the calls that you need to make that day. Right. And so this is a big deal. If let's use this as an example. Let's say that you've been adding a lead every single day for 30 days or 60 days, right? Those are going to start stacking up. And the nice thing is that until you actually make this call, it's not going to launch the other, it's going to get stuck here until you make that other call. And so when you make that call, it's going to start going on it again.
Got it. Okay.
So one of the things that you guys can do, guys, is, an annual birthday program. If you have somebody's birthday, it triggers, or their anniversary or their home anniversary, It triggers on a date. And then you can make sure that, you know, an email gets sent out, a text message gets sent out, you know, something gets sent out. Or if you wanted to, you know, if you came up with an idea about a free report, how to buy a home in, I don't know, Yorba Linda, Duke, and people who downloaded it, it sends them the free report, and then maybe have a series of 7 videos that walks that you can send to them every day for the next 7 days. That you know, step 1 is the lending process. Step 2 is this. Step 3 is this. So really, what you guys do with this is it's on. Sky's the limit on that. It doesn't, none of this matters if you only have 1 lead. You can handle 1 lead by yourself, right? You don't need a database. What this is meant to do is help you manage your volume and staying connected with people and maintaining volume, especially if you decide to invest in some sort of platform like Zillow or whatnot, and you're generating a lot of different leads. You need a place to put those. Otherwise, you're just throwing money down the drain. You just need to say something in there. Does that answer your question, Duke?
Yes, it does.
All
Yeah.
right, awesome. All right, guys. So qualifying buyer leads is where we're going to go next. Probably the single most important thing to do. Well, of course, finding the buyer, getting the lead, cultivating it, but qualifying it is extremely, extremely important. Now, the way that Keller Williams suggests that you break it down is label them. Okay. I always labeled things, and I still do this, as hot, warm, cold. A is hot, B is warm, C is cold, right? A, somebody who's ready, willing, and able to move. Someone who's out looking for properties, someone who's ready to like engage now. They wanted to buy a house yesterday. That's a hot buyer, right? As real estate agents, because we are paid based on as a sales industry, you know, we are paid when something closes. We are looking 30, 60 days out. We are not looking 12 months out. That's why we need our database, right? That's why we need our technology to work with. Because in 12 months, you're going to find somebody that's 12 months out or a week or 2 out. B, they're able and ready, but there's something, but now is not a good time. Usually this is tied to some sort of condition. You know, I'll buy when COVID's gone. It's not really a condition. Maybe they'll buy when they, you know, maybe they got laid off. They need a job again, right? They were in the process. I actually heard a story the other day. I think it was from Dale Chima, that they got laid off while in escrow and they couldn't buy the house anymore. And so now they have to wait before they get gainfully employed again, before they can actually buy. But usually there's some sort of, you know, condition on that why they're not ready to buy. So if we're looking at hot, warm, cold, I would say somebody who's looking to buy within the next 30 to 45 days. Look, you don't want to go out and start showing people properties when they're like, their timeline is like the second quarter of next year. Why would you start looking at buyers? Like the homes that are on the market now are not directly related to the homes that are going to be on there in 3 months. And for what we're seeing, the price and the competition is going to be directly related to what they can get it for. So anything that they're looking at now, all you're doing is accompanying someone to be window shopping. And people who do that are typically the ones who don't have a whole lot of other business going on. So you do that to actually maintain that relationship and do it. But I can tell you, if you had, you know, 3 listings and 2 buyers that are active going right now, the last thing you're going to do is want to allocate some time, a few hours out of your day, to go out and let someone window shop. But people do it. C, they're just not ready, right? Usually these are people, and this comes down to the pre-qualifying. Usually these are people who are just like, they're living in a fantasy world, right? They're in a dream. Look, Brett, you know, I'll buy a house. If I can buy a home in Irvine, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, if I can get it for $500,000, I'll buy it. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, if I could find a house that you can buy in Irvine that's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, that's $500,000, I'll buy it. And I'll sell it to you for $600,000, right? So you'll come up with those people. You'll come up with those people that say, I want to make an offer. Okay, what do you want? I want to come in a little bit low. Okay, how low is a little bit low? Well, I want to go in 20% below value. Okay, that's interesting. Do you want to buy the house or do you want to write an offer on that house? Well, what do you mean? Well, because if you come in 20% low, we're not even going to get a response. Well, how do you know that? Because if I was the listing agent on that, and I know the listing agent on that, if I came in with an offer, if someone got me an offer on that, I'm not going to respond. In fact, I'll probably block your calls. Be honest. I actually fired someone from being my client before because they want to go in 40% low. I said, look, I'm not, I have a reputation to protect. I'm going to respectfully, withdraw from this listing. You're my agent. No, I was your agent. I'm not your agent anymore. You're fired, to quote our favorite person right now. So ABC, warm, hot, warm, cold. That's how I still do it. That's on page number 5. Okay, so we have a buyer sheet. So I'm going to have to upload this. Any questions right now while I upload this list for you guys? Am I giving you guys a lot of good stuff? Duke, you learned some things?
Yeah.
Yes, Brett.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, Laura.
Thank you,
I'm
Brett.
sorry. I do
fine.
have a question. Going
Okay.
back to B, like if you have a buyer who's not ready to buy now, maybe they're going to buy in the next quarter or so, but they want you to take them out to look at homes. How do you say no to them and keep, and at the same time keeping them as your client?
That's a really great question. And it really comes down to your better judgment. It's really going to tie into this buyer lead sheet. Now, this isn't the one that I used back in the day. I always had things, I had a profile of how serious somebody was, right? I had to have them jump through some hoops. Number one, if you're a buyer, I will go out and show you, if you're a lead that came in, right? A cold lead, let's say it came off of Zillow, said it came off of realtor.com. Let's just say it came off of the internet, right? It's just cold. I am perfectly happy to schedule a time to go and show them a property one time because I need to get in front of them and I need to have a conversation with them. That's that one time. But that one time is all about setting them up for a buyer orientation. That's what I call it. Could be a buyer meeting, could be whatever you want to call it. I always called it a buyer orientation because the whole focus of that whole time is to methodically walk them through the process of what it's going to take to buy a home. And at the end of that, they're going to sign a buyer broker agreement with me. The other criteria is that, are they a cash buyer or do they need financing? If they're a cash buyer, I require that they show me that they have the liquidity to buy a home cash. And that's either going to be a bank statement. Well, a bank statement, right? I want to see the cash. Where's the cash coming from? If they give me an investment account and I know that they're under the age of 60, I'm going to say, hey, there's a chance that you're going to get penalized for this. Are you going to use these funds? Right? People just give you all kinds of stuff. If it's a loan, if they need to get a loan, the next question I ask, have you spoken to a lender? Yes. Have they underwritten you for approval? Okay. Now there's a difference between pre-qualifying and pre-approval. Okay. Pre-qualifying means that they spoke to a lender and they've answered a few questions about their income and their job. And based on the information that they tell them, then they're qualified to buy a loan. Now, back pre-2008, that used to be good enough because they were giving everyone loans. They're giving dead people loans. So if you actually had a pulse and you could blow fog on a mirror, then you were actually pretty well qualified pre-2008. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. You need to have that pre-approval. Pre-approval means that you've met with a lender, you've provided them your taxes, you've provided them your pay stubs, you provided them all the financial documentation they need. You've done an application, you've signed it, they've ran it through underwriting, and they came back saying, you know what, based on this information, go buy a house up to this much money. That's what you're looking for. Now, to your question, Laura, if they've given me that stuff, because you've got to be somewhat fairly motivated to go through that process, then I would be more than happy to show them properties. Because nobody who is not going to buy a home within the reasonable future is going to provide you that information unless they are serious about buying a home. But it comes down to, a business decision for you as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. You're welcome. Okay, guys.
Thank you,
So
Christian.
this buyer sheet that I'm going to share with you guys, and I just put it in the chat so you guys can download it. And now I'm going to share the screen onto it. Let's just go right here. So this is a buyer sheet. I usually had something like this. It kind of goes in depth. And really what this is a script. It's a buyer pre-qualification script. So this is where you put their information. And this information should be transposed into whatever database you use, whether it be Command or otherwise. Name, email, address, if you can get their kids' names, their spouse name, mobile phone, what's the best way to reach them? You know, what are the best times? This could be a landing page for you guys. This could be a lead generation form. Okay, I'm a fan of generating organic leads digitally. One of the reasons why I talked to Faye, why I think it's so amazing with what he's done in the last couple of years, is that he doesn't pay for leads. He paid through sweat equity. You know, you guys often hear me say that the best time to plant a tree was 40 years ago or today. And, you know, he started, you know, doing videos like 5 years ago, 3 years before he got into real estate. He started to build that digital sphere of influence, if you will. But, you know, you're going to want to have this information in your phone, on your contact, you know, whatever you're using. But here are the questions. When you're talking to somebody on the phone, one of the questions is, has an agent taken you out and shown properties? Why is that question important? Anyone tell me why that question's important?
Because you want to know if they're working with an agent or if they're just.
Are you working with another agent?
Yeah.
Because if they're working with another agent and they're okay with working with you, don't think for a second that they're not going to do the same thing to you that they're doing to someone else. So the next question is, do you have a buyer agreement signed? You know, is anybody else buying the home? Right? Don't go show properties to one decision maker. And if you are going to show it to the one decision maker and they're married, show it to the wife, not the husband. Like I even say that with me. Like it doesn't matter. I don't need to go like when it's me and my wife. And I think that most relationships are like that. Look, she can go look at 100 homes. She's going to narrow it down to like 2, and then I can go look because nothing else that I'm going to say is going to matter. Now, the crappy thing with that is that I'll be our agent and then I'm the one who has to go through. I have to go and show all those homes. Who will be living in your home? That doesn't really matter. How long have you been looking for a home? That's a good move. I've been looking for a year. Oh my God, you've been looking for a year? Do you really want to be that person that's going to be showing them a house for a year? They probably aren't working with the real estate agent because they gave up. But usually when a real estate agent, I have shown 60 homes to one couple before. It was horrible. You know, every weekend you had to go show them like 5, 6, 7 homes. Now, ironically, at the time, there was actually that many homes on the market, but they were going in various different areas. And sooner or later, you get so invested into it, you just want to keep the distance. You don't want to be a quitter because you put so much time and effort into it that you're like, God, I got to get this done. I've already committed so much time into it. Sometimes you just have to cut your losses.
Hey, Brett.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of that experience, how do you limit that? Let's say you're working with a bunch of hot buyers and, you know, the normal, I guess a lot of common things would be, especially someone that's never bought a house, they want to look and smell and touch everything they can, obviously with COVID and a tight market. What would you tell yourself, you know, the 20-year-old Brett, like, how do you limit the buyers to, hey, let's get really focused. Let's get very, you know, granular on it.
That's a really great question. And this comes back down to your knowing their why and their when. You've got to know their motivation and you got to know what they're looking for. And the key is in the pre-qualification. The key is in their pre-qualification. You've got to get them, first of all, you got to get to find out what their budget is. Their budget, you know, there are people out there even to this day that will actually go out and show properties with just some sort of blanket purchase price or price that they're looking at without having any type of loan review. You know, they have to get a loan and they just go out and look at properties just to kick tires and see, you know, they're going to Louis Vuitton when they should be going to Ross. So, you know, that's a big thing. So you really need to just fine tune down what is it looking for? You know, who are they? Are they first time home buyers? Well, they're first time home buyers, you have an idea. Do they have a small family? That gives you an idea. School systems are extremely important. We've talked about this. So it really comes down to the pre-qualification, and it really comes down to having that buyer orientation. Because when you're having a buyer orientation, you're setting the expectations. I typically always allotted 2-hour time frames to go out and show properties. I'd allot 20, 30 minutes to get to an area, about 10 minutes per property I was showing. So I was showing about probably 5 or 6 properties and 30 minutes to get back to the office. And back then I actually had to map those in Google Maps by the address, and I'd pull the map. I'd print one out for me. I'd give it to myself, and I'd give it to the other one to the buyer. Cause rarely did I have anyone in my car. And I would have them marked as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In addition to that, one of the criteria that I always had is they have to drive by the home first before we actually schedule a time to go look into it. Now I did that pre-COVID. I did that because the outside of the property is a direct reflection of the inside of the property. And if they've never been to the neighborhood, they might not like the neighborhood. So I want them to drive by it first. And you need to set those expectations. So Mr. and Mrs. Jones, as we go through and buy this property, I want to walk you through the process. First of all, let's get an idea of what the home you're looking for. What's the most important thing to you? The wife or the spouse would typically say, kitchen, bathrooms. Guys get a bad rap. They always say the garage. I don't care about the garage. My dad would, though. My brothers would. They're all like grease monkeys, but I never cared. I only cared if my wife liked it, because if she liked it, then I would like it, because that's really what matters. But it comes down to the pre-qualification, and it really comes down to the buyer orientation. So step 1, get the lead. If you have to go out there and show one property or 1 or 2 properties just to build that rapport, use that time wisely, because you need to pre-qualify them to find out their why and their when. Don't just throw anyone to a buyer orientation. Find out their why and when first. Why are you moving? Why do you want to buy? When, right? If their why is, I don't know, I'm just, it's COVID, it seems like a good time to buy. Okay. When do you want to move? Whenever. If it takes us a year, if it takes us 30 days, I'm good. That's not a good client to have. Right. So, but then once you actually have that conversation with them, that's when you tee it up for a buyer orientation. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when was the last time you guys bought a home? Or Mr. and Mrs. whoever, when was the last time you bought a home? Well, we've never bought a home. Okay. So you're a first time home buyer. Yeah. Okay. So how much do you know about the buying process in Orange County, in Irvine, in Southern California? Well, the only thing that we've been on there is, what we know online. Okay. So here's what I'd like to do. Before I work with anyone, I schedule a time to do a buyer orientation. Now, this is where you can either come into my office or we can do it on Zoom. I actually prefer Zoom, guys. I do everything in Zoom first. That's like my first step. And now you can actually use COVID. Pre-COVID, I did everything to Zoom anyways. And the hardest part was getting people to understand the technology. It was easy for them to commit, but sometimes it was hard for them to understand how to communicate and the technology on it. But now everybody's doing Zoom, and it's easier now. So, but when you do that buyer orientation, this is the exact process of a listing presentation, guys. The process is the same. The content is different, right? You get a lead, you send them some information, you set up a buyer orientation, also known as a listing presentation. You're pre-qualifying them before you actually set that appointment. You're sending them a pre-meeting packet. Same thing here. You're going to send them a pre-meeting packet, and then you're going to do your buyer orientation. And the end of the listing agreement or the listing appointment and the end of the buyer appointment is when they sign or they don't sign a buyer agreement or a listing agreement.
There you go. Yes. Mm-hmm.
What was that, Katia?
Well, my experience with buyers is that they really don't want to sign the buyer agreement, but if they pre-qualify, I still want to work with them. And as long as I trust that I am the only agent, but it's very difficult to get those two things going with them after.
Well, the hard thing with that is if you ever come up with someone that says that I don't want to sign a buyer agreement, because that always happened to me, right? Yeah. I mean, the objections that you guys get now are the same objections I got when I got into the business. And the question I would have, look, I totally understand it. If you don't mind me asking, what is it that makes you worried about signing a buyer representation agreement? And most of the time, they don't want to get locked into buying a house. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I want to assure you that this agreement does not obligate you to buy a house. What this does, it outlines the terms that if I help you buy a house, then I put time and effort and resources showing you house, providing you service, providing you content, providing you information, that I would be legally representing you at the time when we're at the offer. Does that sound okay to you? Yeah, that sounds okay to me. Now, you don't need to get you don't need to get that buyer agreement signed until they're actually pre-qualified. So don't do a buyer. You can do a buyer orientation first or after, but typically, you have to fill that out on what works best for you. But you definitely want to do a buyer orientation, if for no other reason, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. What kind of property do you want? Here's the type of loan. Here's the budget. Here's what we're looking at. Right? Here's our time frame. Here's the area. Okay, I'm going to send you some properties. You guys tell me, I'm going to send you some properties that meet your criteria. The first thing you guys need to do is go out and drive by the property. Can you do that? Yes. And if you drive by the property, you like the property, you like the neighborhood, let me know and I will get us in that property either the same day or the next day. Does that work for you? Yes. Do you guys work full time? What is the best time to preview property? Okay. In this day and age, things move fast. So we've got to be able to get it. And quite honestly, guys, with 2 months of inventory, with 2 months of inventory right now, I mean, things are going fast. You might not have, they've probably already driven all the neighborhoods and they've probably already driven everything. They're looking at the photos and everything online. So, you may not have to do that. Quite honestly, you shouldn't be showing 60 properties in this market because, if you're going to go show a lot of property, you go show one property, it's probably sold in 10 minutes. So, and that's part of the buyer orientation, is to let them understand what's going on with the market. Sometimes they have to go down the path for them to believe it. Write that first offer and see how it went under contract for 20,000 more. And I got to tell you, if you are representing somebody who needs financing, if they don't have the down payment plus an additional liquidity to pay down as a difference, probably not going to buy in this market. So you got to really, your job is to educate and consult. We're not just a sales industry. Other questions? Are you renting now or do you own? Okay. Oh, go ahead. Who is?
I have a quick question regarding what you were just saying.
Okay.
If you have a buyer who is in the process of getting pre-qualified with a lender, but they want to go ahead and start looking for homes during that process, and then let's say maybe their loan is lower than what they expected, how do you tell them in a nice way, like, the homes that we're looking at, unfortunately, you won't be able to afford?
We can role play that. Hey, Matt, so I got a question for you. So the lender, when they reviewed your finances, they said that you're qualified up to $1 million, and that's at a 48% debt to income ratio. Okay. So that's really high. You want to go and look at properties for 1.2 million. So my question to you is, if you find a property that you like 1.2 million, how are you going to be able to afford and write an offer on that? And you know what most of them are going to say, Matt?
What?
They want to negotiate. Oh, we just figured we could probably negotiate with the buyer. Okay. See, and that's where the buyer orientation is. So here's the best way to handle any objections. Any objections that come up to you guys are going to be the same objections with every different buyer. And so as you get better at them, as you practice them, and you're going to be able to start, they're going to start telegraphing their situation. The best way to handle an issue is to pre-frame that before it's an issue. So Matt, you're approved at $1 million, which means every property I'm going to show you is going to, every property that I send to you is going to be set at that price range that you could afford based on where it's listed at. Okay. Okay. Now, if there's something that you don't like there, what are you going to do if we don't find anything in that $1 million price range and you have to go up? Can you afford 1.2? Because your lending can't, right? So if you pre-frame the issue, then it's not going to be combative or it's not going to come off sideways if you have to bring it up. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah.
Can't remember who I was talking to, but whenever I took a listing, I would take the listing, I would get all the inspections done. I would get a home inspection done on it. I would get a termite inspection done on it. I would do everything. I would get the title report on it. I would do everything. If I got the home inspection back on it, I would get all the repairs done on it. Right. And the reason why I would do that is because I'm pre-framing the situation so I don't have to deal with things down the road. I think one of the big things that a lot of listing agents do wrong is that they list the property and then they go into a inspection period and they have a buyer do their own inspection. And now you have to negotiate something's always going to come up. If it's not, even if it's a new home, something's going to come up.
Hey,
And
Brett.
anytime something comes up, you're going to have to negotiate it. Go ahead, Duke.
In the Bay Area, that's how they do it. It's actually a lot more like how you said, all the disclosures, all the preliminary titles, all the inspections are all said and done. And then you go and you just show it to your client and you accept it or not, and you move forward or not. It's literally nothing left to be negotiated. It's
Yeah.
you go in and you close.
Yeah.
It's aside from the offer price. So
Yeah.
I don't know why that Southern Cali doesn't do that, but
No, it's not just Southern Cal. I mean, it's a lot of markets
Okay.
in the country, not just us. Okay, so renter. I mean, you got to know when their lease is up. Do you need to sell your current home? Have you signed a listing agent with another agent? Are you going to be paying cash or are you getting a mortgage? Right. And then it goes through a variety of questions. What price are you comfortable with? Kind of going into what we were just talking about, Matt. Is anyone else involved in the home buying decision? If you're a first-time home buyer and it's a younger couple, maybe their parents is. Maybe their parents are going to gift them the down payment. Well, that adds another layer. Now you have to check with the lender to see what the criteria is for the loan program that they're getting. Can they be gifted a down payment? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 meaning that you must buy a home as quickly as possible, and 1 meaning that you're not sure, where would you rate? Well, I rate a 5. Okay, what would make it a 10? What needs to happen for your motivation to hit a 10? Excuse me, guys. 11, when do you need to be in your new home? Okay, why and when? I'd love to help you buy in order to help you. And then it goes into the buyer orientation, as I call it. Now, guys, the best way for you to do this, the best way when you're talking to a buyer lead is when they're in front of them or they're a contact, not a lead. And if you're able to schedule the buyer orientation, say, look, before we set a time to come into a buyer orientation, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? No, go ahead. And then you just ask them the questions. I have about 12 questions I'd like to ask you about your situation. Do you have 5 or 6 minutes right now that I can ask those to you? You're pre-framing it. The biggest mistake I see people doing is that they get in the habit of being salesy and they start demanding and asking questions without getting permission first. So that's the buyer lead sheet. Does anyone have any questions on the buyer lead sheet? All right. Let's see how many slides we got going on now. Okay, so that's the buyer lead sheet. Let's go here. We're not going to role play qualifying your buyers. That's going to take a little bit longer, but I definitely think that you need to role play out the buyer criteria. And I think I'll probably do that in the role play group. We'll figure that out. Okay, so signing the buyer agreement. That's the next one. This is actually pretty simple. Ask for the business. So when it's a process, guys. So they say, ask for the business, ask for the appointment, assess the financing needs. Okay. But the way that I would recommend it is you have a lead come in, you have a conversation with them. If you need to go out and you need to go and meet them at a property, look, it doesn't matter if you meet them at your office or you meet them at a property. The whole point, it has nothing to do with showing the property. It has everything to do with getting in front of them and having a conversation with them. Now, we're in real estate. We're mobile and global. If you're focusing on a primary market area, like I've always said, 3 to 5 miles of your home is your primary market area. Secondary market area, don't go further out than 10 miles. Then to get out there and actually show up one property, it's not that big of a deal. But if you're taking listings or if you're If you're taking leads up in Riverside County and you're taking leads out in, Ventura and such, yeah, showing one property is a big deal. It's a big commitment. You got to work the area that's not that big of a deal, not that big of a commitment. So you go there, you talk to them, you build rapport with them. You ask them why they're moving. You're asking them, do they own a home now? You ask them, have you talked to a lender? You go through, and this is your list of questions that you're actually, you make a mental note and you're asking that. And then at the end of that, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, look, I'd really like the opportunity to share with you what I do as a service to help agents buy or help people buy homes. Would you be open to meeting with me for what I call a buyer orientation? Well, I'll walk you through the step-by-step process of what I do and the process of buying a home. Yeah, I would be open to meeting with you. Okay, do you have some time this week? Yes, we do. Okay, I'm looking at, what days typically work best for you? Well, after work on Thursdays and Fridays work best. Okay, what time do you guys get off work? Get off at 4:00. Okay, so could we do Thursday at 5:00, or would Friday at 5:00 work better? Now you guys might want to add the weekends to that. Maybe you don't want to do a buyer orientation that late. Or do you have a Zoom component? Do you want to do it online? Me personally, I would do it online. I would do it in Zoom. I actually used to do these. Zoom came out. I started using Zoom like 2006. I think I was using Skype before that, but I was doing these types of, I was doing this process when technology wasn't that awesome. Now, if you're on Skype, if you guys used it, the interesting thing, that thing hasn't changed. It still sucks, even in 2020. But so that's why I prefer to use Zoom. I like Zoom. And let's go to this next one. Okay, recaps and ahas. Anyone want to share their aha moments with me? Any other questions? Comments? Critiques?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Matt.
It's back to my previous question. So I do have a buyer that's in the pre-qualifying process with Benny.
Okay.
But she wants to look at some homes in the area. She gave herself an estimate of 500,000 budget. But the home criteria that she gave me doesn't exist in that price range. It's around 600 and plus. But she wants to go look at homes as soon as possible. So
that's
sure
the interesting situation.
Yeah.
Be honest. Right.
Be honest.
So
okay.
Now so here's my take on things. There's nothing worse than not having any business than having bad business. Right? There's nothing worse than not having a listing than having a listing that won't sell. There's nothing worse than having no buyers is having a buyer that's unrealistic and that's never going to buy. In Orange County? Matt, is that what she wants? Is she in Orange County?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's her criteria? What, she wants a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Irvine for $500,000?
Not Irvine. No, it's Vienna Park.
Oh, that's even worse. Not Dana Point. Dana Park out there.
No, not Dana Point. Near Fullerton.
Buena
Fullerton
anything
area,
in Orange County,
Vienna Park.
Orange County, you're not getting a 3-bedroom, 2-bath detached home for $500,000. You're just not. It's not going to happen.
I know.
I mean, the median sales price right now is like 900.
All right.
So, yeah. So maybe ask them if there's someone else that could buy with them. Is it a married couple, 2 incomes?
It's a first-time home buyer, single mom.
Yeah. I think that what you need to do is say, look, we have some challenges here. And she's going to say, what is it? I said, based on, your finances, you're saying that you're looking to buy, $500,000. Yeah, that's what I'm looking. Okay. But the criteria you gave me, the starting price to get into that area for the type of home that you want is more like 750,000.
Okay.
But, so the only option that we have is we can start looking at different areas, or we have to start adjusting the criteria of the home, or you have to increase your income. You have to increase your budget.
She hasn't gotten her finances yet from Benny. She just gave me her estimated budget from herself.
One thing that you can do, Matt, is find out how much her gross commission income is. How long has she been on her job? Look, if somebody's buying a home and they don't have 2 years of job stability, have 2 years of tax returns showing that their income, right, stable. Find out how much their gross commission income is. And then,
Okay.
typically, the suggested rate is 33%. So you don't want to have more than 1/3 going towards your housing cost. But what you'll find in Orange County is that pushes more towards like 48, 50%. Now, her being a first-time home buyer at that price range, is Benny looking at like FHA financing for her?
I'm not sure. She just Benny just sent her the start of the process via email,
Gotcha.
where she had to
Would
send
it be
over
helpful
her stuff.
to have a class that would break down how to pre-qualify someone for the basic Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA? Would that be helpful? I think, Katya, we did that
I
once
like
before.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And it's important because it's always changing. We need to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you look
'Cause I
for?
do
I mean,
wanna
when
show her
I'm
property,
looking
but-
at something, have you ever had a bankruptcy? Have you paid tax? Do you have your last 2 years of tax returns? Have you been in the same line of work for 2 years? Do you have any judgments on you? Any car payments, any late payments, any credit card payments? That's the challenge that we're going to be going in through COVID, is that a lot of people's credit's going to be affected.
So we can ask
So-
these questions.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure. That was okay.
Yeah. And, so what I did is I was always very familiar. So in Utah, like 90% of the loans were FHA. The exact opposite here. Like 1% of the loans in Orange County are FHA. There's more VAs than there are FHA. And the majority of those are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are conforming loans, which have increased their loan limits to like 900 and something thousand. They're running out of steam. So they've lowered interest rates. So now they have to raise the limit for the purchase price. Next thing you know, they're going to expend loan term to keep that demand going. They're just going to keep on throwing as much kindling on that fire as they possibly can. But, you got to ask those questions. And I would always pre-qualify them before I went to the lender. Right. So I talked to you guys about a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. Okay. You need to get them to your lender for a pre-approval. You can do the pre-qualification. What's your job like? How long you doing? How much is your gross income? Are you getting any alimony? Have you ever had a bankruptcy? Are there any judgments against you? Anything like that could, have you made all your payments on time for a 2-year period of time? Minimum of 2 years. You got any late payments in the prior 2 years? That might disqualify anyone from a loan. They might have to write a explanation letter depending on where their credit score is. What's your credit score? Look, if you don't have at least north of a 720 credit score, you're probably not buying. You're definitely not renting in Orange County, because renting is almost more challenging than getting a loan. But you have to, you can do the pre-qualification, because the last thing you want to do is just, throw a bunch of dirt to the lender. Why prolong why prolong something 3 days when you can spend 5 minutes asking a few questions and know for a fact? Based on what you're telling me, Matt, is that, you sound like you'd be a good candidate for, the general loan criteria. So what I'd like to do is get you in touch with my lender. His name's Benny. He's with, I forget what their company is, but is there a time
American.
this week that I could put you together with him to talk with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like, and then you can ask him, are you open to getting are you in a position to buying a house that you're ready to take those next steps of getting pre-approved? Now, what that means is that you have to provide your tax returns. You have to use your pay stubs. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to take a blood test. You have to take a COVID test. You have to get, you have to have a 3-mile run time.
Really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh. I didn't ask those, but I did ask her if she was willing to speak with Benny, and I did get that set up. But I didn't ask her about the other things
Yeah.
regarding her.
Yeah, as a
W-2
real
and
estate
Facebook.
agent, because you are going to be their fiduciary. You're the one who's going to be representing them. See, and I always took that very serious, guys. I don't know if I ever told any of you guys this, but when I was listing a property, I would never double side it. I would never be a dual agency. When I listed a property, I represented the seller. Now, that didn't mean that there was another agent that came in. You can have them sign what's called an unrepresented buyer disclosure. But I made it very perfectly clear that my loyalties lie to the seller. So I always took fiduciary responsibility very seriously. And part of a fiduciary and part of what you do, because you have to protect your time too, is you've got to know what you're getting yourself into. You know, if any of you guys have ever had to go through the legal process or anything, or, you know, the common scenario is going to the doctor's office, they're asking you questions. They just don't come up with an answer. So when you're talking to that buyer, as early on as your rapport will allow you to do it, you need to have those professional questions with them. Look, there's a dime a dozen agents out there that will just go show them properties in every single county until, you know, the cows come home, right? The difference between that and scaling, those types of agents will never scale their business. And the agents who actually stay in the business long-term and actually have a good source of business, the difference is the systems that they have behind it and the qualifying criteria. So if you're going to work with buyers, you need to make sure that you have a process to do it. And you know, we mapped out this process. I hope I was able to add clarity to this. I know, Katya, you've gone through this course a few different times. I think this one was probably a little bit different.
This was much more clear now because it was more, you actually gave much more points to go over. And for me, I always have a conversation with my lender after I pre-approve somebody. So this is important because then when I go back to the client, I know what I have. I know, you know, if he said, if my lender said, oh yeah, I qualified him and we were talking about that, you know, this woman wants to buy a home that, you know, doesn't exist. So the same things. That is why you do all this pre-qualification, because you go back to your client, you say, okay, this is what we have right now. You know, you're not able to afford it, and these are your choices, but you tell them in advance so that they're prepared. And I like,
you know, I heard an analogy the other day. I can't remember where I was at. And it was like going into like a luxury car dealership, not BMW. We're talking that next level. We're talking, well, it could be a BMW depending on which one you're looking to buy, but like a Porsche dealership, a Maserati, you know, Ferrari. And, you know, when you walk in, you're a lead, right? You're in there. They don't let anybody just jump in that car and go rally it, right? They might let you come in and look at it and sit in it and stuff. But before you're going to do something, they're going to start asking you some questions. And a lot of those are going to be based around financing.
Yep.
Right? So again, if, you know, I'm glad that this helped, that's helped you guys out. I hope you guys have a very methodical process now. Now it's just putting it together for you guys and start fine tuning it. Each one of those sections can be, you have to take each one of sections and make it yours. Okay. Lead generation. Let's focus on that. Let's focus on who we're going to work with. Where do we get them? How we're, what offer are we going to come out that's going to generate a lead for us? Are we going to buy them? Right? Are we going to invest in them? Are we going to do Facebook ads? Whatever it may be, we just need to figure out a way to hit a demographic to generate those leads. Once we figure that out, now we need to start working out our process of, okay, when this happens, that happens. And then the ultimate goal is to go from lead to conversation to buyer orientation to getting to pre-qualifying, then buyer orientation, and then getting that buyer agreement signed. That's the main focus. Just dun, 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 dun. And once you guys get that down, you know, it's going to take you guys some time to get that mapped out. I mapped this all out all on my own 2 decades ago. Like I said, I didn't have a Brett to talk to me about this. I'm sure there was someone out there, but I couldn't find him. Or maybe I just wasn't looking. Probably a combination of the two. But anyone else want to share some ahas before we shut it down? Went a little bit longer than I expected.
No, it was a beautiful presentation. Thank you. I learned a lot.
Thank you, Katya.
My
All right,
pleasure.
guys, I'm going to close it off right there. Be sure to put on your calendars for tomorrow with Faye. It's probably going to be pretty awesome if you want to know how to go from $0 to $1 million using digital.
We'll be there. Thank you.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.